Throughout history, royal families have often intermarried to consolidate power, maintain purity of bloodline, or secure alliances. These acts of inbreeding over generations have sometimes led to severe consequences. Here, we explore the top 10 most inbred sovereigns in history. Number 1. Louis XV of France. Louis XV of France, who reigned from 1715 to 1774, is another example of a monarch whose family engaged in intermarriage, although not to the same extent as the Habsburgs or Ptolemies. Known as Louis the Beloved, his reign started off well, but ended in failure and public disapproval, setting the stage for the French Revolution. Louis XV was the great-grandson of Louis XIV and his wife Maria Theresa of Spain. The marriage between Louis XIV and Maria Theresa was a political alliance aimed at ending the long-standing conflict between France and Spain. They were double first cousins, and this level of intermarriage carried the risk of detrimental recessive traits being expressed in their descendants, which was evident in Louis XV. Although Louis XV did not exhibit noticeable physical or mental impairments like some other inbred monarchs, his reign was characterized by lethargy, indecisiveness, and susceptibility to manipulation, which some historians believe may have been influenced by his familial lineage. He showed little interest in governing and often left state affairs to his ministers and mistresses. During his reign, France lost almost all of its North American territories in the 7 Years' War, faced economic crises, and experienced growing public discontent. Additionally, Louis XV's personal life was filled with scandal and extravagance, as his numerous affairs drew significant public disapproval. His lack of moral and political leadership, coupled with his failure to address France's financial problems, contributed to the declining prestige of the monarchy. This loss of public trust played a significant role in the outbreak of the French Revolution 15 years after his death. Interestingly, the most direct impact of inbreeding in Louis XV's lineage was not seen in Louis himself, but in his grandson and successor, Louis XVI. Louis XVI married Marie Antoinette of Austria, and both being descendants of Louis XV, they were second cousins once removed. Number 2. Tsar Ivan IV of Russia. Tsar Ivan IV of Russia, also known as Ivan the Terrible, is an interesting case when discussing the effects of royal inbreeding. His reign, which lasted from 1547 until his death in 1584, was characterized by significant changes in governance and periods of mental instability. Some believe that his lineage and intermarriage within his family may have contributed to his mental health issues. Ivan IV belonged to the Rurik dynasty, which had ruled different parts of Russia for many years. Like other royal families of the time, the Ruriks practiced intermarriage to consolidate power and form alliances. While not as heavily inbred as some European royal houses, Ivan's lineage did include instances of cousin marriages, which could have increased the risk of genetic disorders. Historically, Ivan IV is known for his extreme cruelty and unpredictable behavior, hence his nickname, the Terrible. While it is challenging to diagnose historical figures with modern psychiatric terms, Ivan's actions suggested possible mental illness. He exhibited severe mood swings, paranoia, and violent outbursts. Most notably, he killed his own son and heir, Ivan Ivanovich, in a fit of rage, which had a profound impact on the succession line of the Tsardom. However, it would be oversimplifying to attribute Ivan's behavior solely to potential genetic issues resulting from inbreeding. His violent tendencies and instability could also be influenced by his upbringing and personal experiences. He ascended the throne at a young age, witnessed violence and power struggles during his childhood, and experienced periods of illness. Ivan's reign was a mix of successful reforms and brutal tactics, such as the establishment of the oprichnina, a policy of state terror against the nobility. While his rule expanded Russia's territories, it also led to periods of mass violence and famine. The long-term consequences of his reign resulted in the Time of Troubles, a period of civil unrest and political upheaval. In the case of Ivan IV, it is possible that genetic factors related to his family's intermarriage practices could have influenced his mental state. However, it is equally important to consider the societal, environmental, and personal factors that shaped his rule. His reign serves as a reminder of the unpredictability and volatility that can arise from rulers with potential mental instability, whether due to genetic, environmental, or a combination of factors. While the extent of the impact of inbreeding on Ivan IV's rule remains uncertain, his reign offers valuable insights into the potential consequences of such practices. His life and rule continue to be significant in Russia's historical narrative, highlighting the far-reaching effects of royal intermarriage. Number 3. Henry VI of England. King Henry VI of England, born in 1421, had a long reign and suffered from severe mental health problems. He became king at a young age after his father's death and ruled during a turbulent time in English history, including the Wars of the Roses. Henry VI was a member of the House of Lancaster, a branch of the royal house of Plantagenet. Like many European royals, his lineage involved intermarriage. His parents were distantly related, which led to a higher level of inbreeding. The main issue that affected Henry VI was his mental health. He experienced recurring episodes of insanity, which greatly affected his ability to govern. His first severe episode in 1453 left him in a catatonic state for over a year. During these periods, his wife and various nobles fought for control, causing political instability. These power struggles eventually led to the Wars of the Roses, a series of civil wars between the rival Plantagenet houses of Lancaster and York. Henry's mental health problems were likely influenced by genetics, although it is unclear if inbreeding played a role. Interestingly, Henry's grandfather, Charles VI of France, also suffered from mental illness, suggesting a potential hereditary factor. Henry VI's case highlights the dangers of inbreeding, even if physical deformities are not immediately apparent. His mental health issues had far-reaching consequences for England, leading to a period of intense conflict and the end of a ruling dynasty. Studying monarchs like Henry VI helps us understand the complex relationship between genetics, health, and political power in historical contexts. As we learn more about the effects of inbreeding, cases like Henry's remind us of the significant consequences this practice can have, even if they are not always visible. Number 4. Ferdinand I of Austria. Ferdinand I of Austria, who ruled from 1835 to 1848, was a member of the House of Habsburg, a family known for their extensive intermarriage. Despite being called Ferdinand the Good and being kind-hearted, he suffered from various health problems associated with the Habsburgs' inbreeding. Ferdinand was the eldest son of Francis II, the last Holy Roman Emperor, and his second wife, Maria Theresa of Naples and Sicily. The couple were double first cousins, meaning they shared all 4 grandparents. This close familial intermarriage greatly increased the chances of their children inheriting and displaying harmful genetic conditions, and Ferdinand was no exception. From a young age, Ferdinand showed signs of serious health issues. He had hydrocephalus, a condition where fluid accumulates in the brain, causing an enlarged head and sometimes mental disabilities. He also had epilepsy and didn't start walking until he was 5. His cognitive abilities were limited, and some historical accounts suggest he struggled with simple tasks and decision-making. These health problems greatly affected Ferdinand's reign. He was often unable to govern, leaving the administration of the empire to a council of regents, including his uncle Archduke Louis, and later a group of ministers and his wife Maria Anna of Savoy. During the politically turbulent 1840s, especially during the revolutions of 1848, Ferdinand's inability to rule effectively became even more apparent. After the revolution, Ferdinand abdicated the throne in favor of his nephew Franz Joseph. His abdication was more of a forced removal, as those in power believed a more competent ruler was needed to restore stability. Despite stepping down, Ferdinand retained the title of emperor until his death in 1875. Ferdinand's life exemplifies the negative health effects that can arise from generations of royal intermarriage. While he is remembered as kind, his physical and cognitive impairments significantly impacted his reign and contributed to political instability in Austria. Examining Ferdinand's life provides insights into the consequences of inbreeding among royal families, affecting not only the individuals involved, but also the political landscape of their time. His reign serves as a significant chapter in the history of royal inbreeding, highlighting the dangers it poses. Number 5. Cleopatra VII of Egypt. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, was known for her intriguing life and powerful relationships. Her family, the Ptolemaic dynasty, practiced intermarriage to maintain their bloodline and power. Cleopatra herself continued this tradition by marrying her younger brother. Although inbreeding posed health risks, Cleopatra was more renowned for her political skills and charm. Her alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony helped solidify her rule in Egypt and expand her influence. However, her children from these relationships were not products of inbreeding, highlighting the consequences of such practices within the dynasty. The decline of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which Cleopatra inherited, may have been influenced by the effects of inbreeding on physical and mental health. Despite these challenges, Cleopatra's ability to navigate this environment showcased her resilience and strategic ability. Number 6. King Charles II of Spain. King Charles II of Spain, also known as El Hechizado or the Bewitched, was born in 1661 and is a prime example of the severe genetic consequences that can occur from generations of inbreeding. As a member of the Habsburg dynasty, Charles II's family tree was so intertwined that his lineage was more inbred than if his parents had been siblings. The Habsburgs were notorious for intermarriage, which resulted in distinctive physical features known as the Habsburg jaw. However, Charles II suffered the most from these genetic issues. He had numerous physical and mental disabilities, which were largely caused by the high degree of inbreeding in his lineage. From a young age, Charles II showed signs of severe physical and cognitive impairment. He didn't speak until he was 4 years old and didn't walk until he was 8. As he grew older, his health problems worsened, including epileptic fits, severe abdominal pain, and developmental issues. Despite 2 marriages, Charles II was unable to produce an heir, likely due to sterility, which is a common consequence of inbreeding. His reign was marked by political strife and decline, as his incapacities prevented him from governing effectively. This led to the erosion of the Spanish Empire's power and influence in Europe. After Charles II's death in 1700, his inability to produce an heir caused a significant succession crisis known as the War of Spanish Succession. His life serves as a reminder of the dangers of inbreeding, as the genetic disorders he suffered were a result of generations of intermarriage within the Habsburg dynasty. Although his inability to produce an heir ended the Spanish Habsburg lineage, the consequences of their inbreeding practices, both in terms of health and politics, continue to be a significant part of European history. Number 7. King Tutankhamun of Egypt. King Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut, was an Egyptian pharaoh who ruled from around 1332 to 1323 BC. His tomb, discovered in 1922, made him famous worldwide. Recent scientific studies have revealed that Tutankhamun was the result of inbreeding, which had significant health consequences for him. His parents were siblings, a common practice among the royal family to maintain the bloodline. However, this close intermarriage increased the risk of genetic disorders. Through DNA testing and other analyses, researchers have identified several health issues that Tutankhamun likely experienced. He had a club foot, which made walking without assistance difficult, and he suffered from Kohler's disease, a rare bone disorder. The presence of walking canes in his tomb suggests that he had mobility problems. Further examination showed that Tutankhamun had a form of malaria, one of the earliest known cases in humans. His compromised immune system, due to his other health conditions, made him more susceptible to infections. He also had an overbite and a slightly misshapen skull, common traits resulting from inbreeding within his family. The exact cause of Tutankhamun's death at the age of 19 is still debated. His various health issues, particularly his mobility problems and malaria infection, likely contributed to his early demise. However, recent research suggests that a severe leg fracture, possibly complicated by his other health conditions, could have been the immediate cause. Number 8. Alfonso XIII of Spain. Alfonso XIII of Spain, who ruled from 1874 to 1885, was another monarch affected by the Habsburgs' practice of intermarriage. He belonged to the House of Bourbon, a dynasty that had intermarried with the Habsburgs and other European royal families for many generations. Alfonso XIII was the son of Queen Isabella II of Spain and her husband Francis, Duke of Cadiz. Both Isabella and Francis had ancestry from the Bourbon and Habsburg families, which meant they shared common genetic traits and had an increased risk of passing on genetic disorders to their children. Isabella and Francis were first cousins, and this close familial relationship could have heightened the chances of such disorders in their offspring. Throughout his life, Alfonso XIII suffered from various health issues. He was frequently unwell, and his overall physical constitution was rather weak. As an adult, he was known to have tuberculosis, which ultimately led to his premature death at the age of 27. While not definitive, it is possible that his recurring health problems and early demise were, at least in part, a result of his inherited genetic predispositions. Despite his personal health challenges, Alfonso XIII's reign was generally well received by the public. He ascended the throne during a period of political instability and was credited with restoring stability and constitutional monarchy in Spain. However, his early death created a succession crisis as his son, also named Alfonso XIII, could not assume the throne until he reached adulthood. Interestingly, Alfonso XIII's son, born after his father's death, also displayed signs of the family's history of intermarriage. He was born with a condition called hemifacial microsomia, which caused underdevelopment on the right side of his face. This condition, also known as Goldenhaar syndrome, is believed to have genetic causes and could have been a consequence of the family's intermarriage practices. Number 9. Ludwig II of Bavaria. Ludwig II of Bavaria, also known as Mad King Ludwig, was the ruler of Bavaria from 1864 until his mysterious death in 1886. His reign was characterized by eccentric behavior, extravagant architectural projects, and possible mental health issues, leading to speculation about the effects of royal inbreeding. Born into the House of Wittelsbach, Ludwig II came from a lineage that had some intermarriage, although not as extensively as other European royal families. His parents were first cousins, which could have brought genetic issues to the forefront. Ludwig II is most famous for his love of elaborate architecture and commissioned grand structures like Neuschwanstein Castle, Herrenchiemsee Palace, and Linderhof Palace. However, his extravagant projects, funded by his personal fortune and substantial loans, nearly bankrupted him and caused concern for his government. In addition to his architectural pursuits, Ludwig II displayed behaviors that raised questions about his mental state. He became increasingly reclusive, conducting state affairs through correspondence and rarely appearing in public. He also adopted a nocturnal lifestyle, frequently going on nighttime rides and demanding constant availability from his servants. There were reports of Ludwig II engaging in eccentric behavior, such as insisting on dining with his favorite horse and imitating characters from Richard Wagner's operas, whom he greatly admired. In 1886, a government commission declared Ludwig II insane, citing paranoia, and he was removed from the throne in a process that bypassed the requirements of the Bavarian constitution. Shortly after his removal, Ludwig II and his psychiatrist were found dead under mysterious circumstances in Lake Starnberg, an event that remains the subject of debate and speculation. While it is challenging to definitively link Ludwig's behavior to his lineage and potential genetic issues resulting from inbreeding, it is a possibility worth considering. However, it is also important to take into account the socio-political context, personal experiences, and individual characteristics when examining Ludwig II's life and rule. Ludwig II's case highlights the complexities and controversies surrounding monarchs believed to be influenced by their inbred lineage. His reign and the mysteries surrounding his life and death demonstrate the unpredictable and potentially detrimental consequences of intermarriage in royal families. Despite these challenges, Ludwig II left a lasting legacy, and his architectural projects remain some of Bavaria's most popular and cherished landmarks. Number 10. Queen Victoria of England. Queen Victoria of England, born in 1819, is one of the most famous monarchs in British history. Her reign, known as the Victorian era, was characterized by industrial growth, scientific advancements, and territorial expansion. However, Victoria is also known for something less glamorous. She carried the gene for hemophilia, a blood clotting disorder, which she passed on to several of her descendants, spreading it among European royal families. Although Victoria herself was not a result of close inbreeding, her own marriage and children played a significant role in the spread of hemophilia. She married her first cousin, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, and they had 9 children, most of whom married into various European royal families for political reasons. The first signs of hemophilia appeared in Victoria's 8th child, Leopold. He experienced frequent bleeding, accidents, and poor overall health. Unfortunately, Leopold died at a young age due to a cerebral hemorrhage caused by his hemophilia. Victoria also passed the hemophilia gene to her daughters, Alice and Beatrice, who then transmitted it to royal families in Spain, Germany, and Russia. One notable case was her granddaughter, Alexandra Romanov, who was the wife of Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia. Alexandra passed the gene to her son, Alexei, whose condition played a significant role in the rise of Rasputin, a self-proclaimed holy man who had influence over the Tsarina due to his ability to alleviate Alexei's suffering, further destabilizing the Russian monarchy. The origin of Victoria's hemophilia gene has puzzled historians and geneticists, as there is no known history of the disorder in her ancestry. Some speculate that it may have been a spontaneous mutation. Victoria's case highlights that while she was not as inbred as some other monarchs, the inbreeding in her descendants had far-reaching consequences. Her reign and lineage have provided valuable insights into the transmission of genetic disorders and the historical impact of such conditions. Despite the achievements of the Victorian era, the spread of the royal disease serves as a reminder of the dangers of concentrated genetic pools within ruling dynasties.